Welcome to the Hokie Hoops Pod. I'm your host, Pete B. I've got Ed Williams here and Mike McDaniel. Gentlemen, we are less than 2 weeks away from the start of the season. It's good to see both of your faces. Mike, how you been, man? Haven't talked to you in a while.
Good. It's nice to talk about something other than football. This is good. This can be refreshing this evening.
Yeah, there's a little bit of excitement around this program. Me and Ed had a conversation with Ryan Hammer just over a week ago, which was great. And it's already on YouTube and in the Sons of Saturday podcast feed. You want to check that out because it was not only about tech, it was about all of the ACC. And that guy, he had a lot to say, didn't he, Ed?
Yeah, Ryan's awesome. Great depth of knowledge across the whole country, all the leagues, but the ACC stuff was really good. And he likes the Hokies roster. He's a big fan of Neo. So that was kind of the impetus of getting him on. But yeah, that was great stuff. And I'd highly encourage everybody giving that a listen before we tip off in 2 weeks.
Tonight, we're going to get you ready for the season and for our season preview, which will be coming next week. We're going to do a little tasting menu tonight. Few topics and then a roster overview. So we're not putting so much on you in the season preview next week. Let's get into ACC Tipoff, guys, because this was on television and on the Field of 68 stream. You could catch a lot of the different things that were being said. And we had our guys down there and Mike on the desk. And we know ACC Tipoff leads to a lot of coach speak, a lot of filler answers from both coaches and players. But were there any main takeaways for you, Ed?
The biggest one was how open Coach Young was with his excitement. He's usually not one, and he said as much in his answer. He's like, I'm not usually one to kind of talk about it. I want to be about it, but, it can't really hide how excited he is about this team. That starts with Neo, and we'll get into him more in a little bit. He said, the rumors are accurate. What you hear is accurate about how good Neo is, but he really seemed to just kind of gush about the whole roster and what this team could be and the pieces he has at his disposal, which he was more open with than he normally would be. That was my biggest takeaway was, wow, okay, he's really excited if he's acting this way.
Yeah, I kind of noticed that as well. How about you, Mike?
Yeah, that was the one that stood out to me. I think the other thing too is towards the end of last year, it was pretty clear with how we assessed it on this podcast, right? About how well he did despite the roster limitations last year, but he was pretty open towards the end of the year that he needed more talent on the roster. And he wasn't shy about that towards the end of the year. And I think that's because he started having honest conversations with a lot of his players about who was going to be back, who he was going to try to keep, right? And who was probably going to be pushed out of the program via the portal. So the fact that he comes into ACC Media Day and he's as excited as he is about his roster, and to kind of build off of that, talked about how important it was to keep Toby Lawal and Tyler Johnson and Ben Hammond and how important those pieces were in addition to Neo. Everybody wants to talk about Neo, but Mike was almost just as excited that he was able to keep those three guys in tow. So, and Jaden Schutt as well. So to have those guys back, I think was really important to Mike Young, and to be able to get that done as well as do what they were able to do in the portal, I think leads credence to his excitement level.
Yeah, and he talked about Neo a lot. He was asked about Neo specifically a couple different times, and just talked about the conversation he had with Neo's dad, and that he's a playmaker, not just a big or a point guard or a small forward or whatever he is. He is just a guy who can make plays for you out there. And we've seen some of that on the highlights and in some of the scouting, because Neo is going to be someone that has NBA potential. And we'll get to that in a little bit. The tangible thing that Mike said was that Ben Hammond is going to start at point guard. He put that out there at ACC Tipoff. And I kind of found that surprising that he'd kind of just come out and say that, but it shows you how much faith he has in Ben Hammond for what is going to be a true sophomore. When some of us thought Neo might be the point that would start, some of us thought Pasha might be starting. Some of us thought Bedford, including John Rothstein, said Bedford would be in the starting lineup. Well, it's going to be Hammond and maybe Neo. We can get into the lineup a little bit later, but I found that to be honestly the most interesting thing that came out of ACC Tipoff from Mike.
Yeah, that was interesting because it was three days after Rothstein was at practice, which in its own right is really cool that Rothstein was at practice and that the national guys are paying attention to this program. Obviously haven't had that attention in some time, but Rothstein put out his, who he thought would start. And then, Mike came out at media day and I believe it was was that Goodman's podcast?
Yeah, it was Field of 68. Yeah.
Field of 68. He said something to the effect of Ben starting. Can't say I'm overly surprised. I kind of, waved the Ben Hammond flag a lot last year. I love his game, and by all accounts, in like very limited conversations I've had with people around the program, everyone's really excited about Ben Hammond. So I can't say I'm surprised. And with Neo's skill set and versatility, like he said, he's a playmaker. He's not necessarily a point guard. He can play. They can play alongside each other seamlessly. I'm not worried about that at all. So if that is what is rolled out against Charleston Southern and maybe this Saturday against Duquesne in the exhibition in terms of a starting lineup, I won't be surprised either way. I don't think it necessarily, means a whole lot. I think this team, as we'll get into, has pretty incredible positional versatility, and who starts won't be who finishes more often than not.
It's exciting that we even have that many potential guys to start, right, Mike? I mean, that was not the case. We were lucky trying to find 5 last year.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that you even have that as an option, and this wasn't even at the ACC Media Day. This was just like media availability in Blacksburg. They had Neo side by side with Hammond and Tyler Johnson, and they asked Neo what his natural position was, and he said point guard, and Ben Hammond was just like, yeah, okay. Like, it's pretty clear that they're going to play off of each other, right? And I think putting them together in the starting lineup will be interesting to see how that works. But I, too, am not surprised Ben Hammond is slated to start. Battle scars last year as a freshman. A lot of these guys did, right? I mean, even a guy like Jaden Shute, who was not a freshman last year, but it was essentially like year one for him with the injuries he had at Duke. For those guys to get out there and play the way that they did, and there were ups and downs for sure throughout the year, but to gain that experience, I think puts them in a really good position this year with the talent that's around them now at the roster, the upperclassmen, adding Neo, obviously. This is a really talented group.
One thought I want to add on that before we move off of it, and I forget this thought, but it's been interesting hearing Coach Young talk about how, this team's not going to, rip the net off the rim in terms of shooting the ball. They're not like a lights out 3-point shooting team, but he's also made a couple of little subtle comments about Ben Hammond's shooting ability and how he was good last year in limited attempts. Like, he didn't shoot a lot of threes, but when he did, he made them. I don't know.
Made half, right?
Yeah, it was like 50% from 3 at not a very small sample size. I wonder if the playmaking that Hammond and Neo on the floor allows you to have is substantial, right? Those are probably your 2 best passers. But I wonder if we've kind of entered into a world where Ben Hammond might be one of this team's most consistent 3-point shooters as well. And he wants him on the floor with Neo for that reason as well. So something to just keep an eye on. I mean, he, again, limited reps, small sample size last year in terms of 3-point shooting for Hammond, but it is something that he did well and that Coach Young made a point to mention, which I found interesting.
And if you're going to have a starting point guard that's under 6 foot, which he probably is, you need to shoot. You need to be able to make a 3-point basket, because I know he can defend. He's a good defender for his size, absolutely. But you want those guys to be able to shoot. The ACC preseason media poll is out. I have the graphic here, fellas. Did you have expectations going into this for how high it would be or low it would be?
I am not surprised that Virginia Tech's flying under the radar the way that they are. I mean, there are a limited number of national guys now, right, who are talking about Virginia Tech being a dark horse team. But when you take a media poll, right, and all these beat writers, I am not surprised that they're lower on Virginia Tech than I expected.
It's 12. This
right.
is by the way, that's what we
12,
have.
12 out of 18.
On the screen. If you're not watching on YouTube, Virginia Tech came in at 12th in the receiving votes. That's okay.
Yeah.
And I would have thought it might have been a spot or two higher because we finished 9th in the league last year, tied for 9th. I realized, but it wasn't even a roster anywhere close to what we have now, and we were tied for 9th.
It's a much better roster going into the year, and I thought Virginia Tech essentially exceeded expectations last year with what they were putting on the floor on paper. So, yeah, I was a little surprised, but what are you gonna do? Preseason polls.
Yeah, I know. Ed, were you in the same camp that Mike was? Like, did you expect it to be like 9 or 8 or something like that, or were you thinking in the above double digits?
To me, it's kind of like the AP poll in football. Like everyone's looking at it week to week. It's like, why is this person there? I don't think these writers actually look at this stuff when they vote, guys. How many of them pulled up Antonio Dorn or Neo Avdilas film? I don't know. I think they'll be higher than 12th. That's kind of my point. But I think in general, like when you look at this stuff, there was another one, is like USA Today, maybe poll came out or something, and we were super low. I just think in general, the consensus from the beat writer types in these poll is way lower. But then when you look at the people who cover college basketball, much higher. Ryan Hammer, Jeff Goodman, the people who pay attention to the sport year round, that's their job, are much higher on the Hokies than maybe the beat writer for this team, for the ACC or for Pitt men's basketball or who have you.
And it's notable that Ryan Hammer, who does the Blue Blooded podcast and is a pretty, I don't know how you describe him. He's a college basketball personality. He's got the TikTok and the Instagram. He has a 6th. And, that's an opinion I'd like to value, is that we could finish that high. Now, the league across the board should be better. It would be hard for it to be worse than it was last year. So finishing 9th in a horrible ACC maybe shouldn't be leaned upon. But a lot of teams have upgraded. I think UVA should be better. Louisville should be just as good, if not better. Duke's going to be dang near as good as they were last year. I know that's going to be really difficult, but they're going to be really good. And then you got Will Wade, the Will Wade experience at NC State. Like, what could they do? And they're 4th in this poll. So they got that bump from the new coach. NC State did in the poll.
Yeah. The top 5 are pretty much the same no matter where you look. And then that second group is kind of up for debate. How do you value what Virginia Tech did? How do you value what SMU did? What do you think Miami will be in year 1 of a new coach? That's all up for interpretation. But the top 5, Duke, Louisville, Carolina, NC State, Virginia, those are pretty much the same no matter where you look. But then, from there, it's okay. Who's that next clump? Who's going to rise to push for that 6, 7 spot and hope that the league gets that many bids?
Mike, if I'm Brad Brownell and I see me coming in at 7 when I basically tied for 2nd in the league, and he has his flaws as a coach, but he has been pretty incredible the last 5 years at Clemson. I feel like he would look at this and be like, we were pretty dang good last year. We should be up higher.
How many times have we looked at Clemson? Like, I know the last few years have been really good, to your point, Pete, but how many times were we looking at Brad Brownell at Clemson, like within the last decade, being like, all right, he's getting fired this year. Okay.
Yeah.
He's getting
fired. Happened a lot.
Okay. It's happened a lot. It's happened a lot. He's kind of vindicated all that the last few years with how well they've played. Yeah, I'd be pissed that I think that's going to be motivation for his roster coming into the year. Hey, we're 7th. We were really good last year, and we're still not getting the respect that we deserve. I feel like at a national level, it's really funny because it's the same sort of thing, right? Like the national writers, I think, have a lot of respect for Brad Brownell because of what he continues to do and kind of overachieve, especially of late at Clemson. The local beat writers, I feel like every year Clemson's in like that 7 to 10 range every year.
Yeah.
Like same spot.
There are so few proven commodities in this ACC, at least in terms of coaches that just entered. Like, yeah, we know that Odom can coach. We know that Will Wade can coach, but like they're with new teams. Like there are so few, like, okay, we've seen this be good. They're back again. Like there's no Larinaga anymore. There's no Jim Boeheim. There's, it's a lot of new. ND just had a new coach come in 2 years ago who I think that team could be feisty. So it's going to be a really interesting year in the ACC. And we need to get back to 6 tournament teams, like to be respectable. Like what was it, 4 last year? Or was it 3?
I think it was 4.
I think it was 4. Yeah.
I think we'll get 7. That's my prediction, but we'll talk more about that next week.
Okay. Last but not least in our notes before we get to roster, the scrimmages. There's been a couple of scrimmages. There's been some things leaking out here and there. Ed, you've been paying close attention to this. Who have we played and what have you heard from some of those scrimmages?
We've just had the one. We'll have another one this Saturday in Blacksburg, day after the Cal game. If people are still in town, go buy a ticket. I think they're like super, super cheap. Grab a ticket and go watch the team play. They're playing Duquesne. the first one we played Seton Hall in a secret scrimmage. Couldn't find a box score on Twitter. I tried, but by all accounts, people I talked to and a few leaked scores on the internet and stuff, it looks like we lost. Now, I don't really care because I think picking Seton Hall was strategic because they play a style you're not going to see a lot of. From what I've heard, we struggled a little bit in the first half of that game against pressure. Lost the first half, won the second half, lost the game overall by a couple points. Not that big of a deal. I do know based on things Coach Young said at Media Day, there have been a couple guys, including Neo, who have been on and off the floor. Like Rothstein, when he was at practice, said Neo was doing individual stuff but not team stuff. Right. Nobody's worried about the long-term effect of that. But if the guy who's going to have the ball in his hands a lot hasn't been in practice, and then you go play live the next day, it's going to be a little bit of a rough go of it. So not concerned. I'm very interested to see how this Duquesne one goes, though.
Yeah, that should be interesting. And we should have maybe a little bit more reporting on it since there are tickets to go see.
Oh, yeah. It'll be completely reported on. You can't watch it, unfortunately, but there's like live stats on the Virginia Tech website. So if you could
they do a good
follow
job
from there. And then, of course, I'm sure we'll have somebody there from Sons of Saturday. I'm sure David Cunningham will be there live tweeting the whole thing. So, yeah, we'll know a lot more after this Duquesne one.
Cool. Now, me and Ed did discuss the departure of Kevin Giltner. He is now the head coach over at Wofford. We talked about that on Two Deep, and I posted it to the Hokie Hoops feed on YouTube. So hopefully you heard some of that conversation, and Ed had really nice things to say about Kevin. We have a new coach that came in, the Boise State coach. I believe the last name is Moats, correct? And I'm not asking you to give me like a background on him or anything, but seems like he's done some good things in his career and looks like a fit with the staff from what I can tell.
Yeah, he's coached at some really good programs. Most recently at Boise State, they've been a good program the past couple of years. And I don't have a whole lot there other than what Billy and I asked JD Byers about that. Go find that interview. Highly encourage that interview, by the way. JD Byers was awesome with Billy and I. But I asked Coach Byers, hey, what's it been like with the new guy in town? And he was highly complimentary and said, the only thing that Coach Young has expressed to Moats is don't be afraid to throw things at us because new eyes, fresh eyes, it's a good thing. And Byers said there's been a few things they've already kind of tweaked or taken into account with that new fresh set of eyes and new ideas. So it's exciting, man. Anytime you have young up and coming coaches coming to town, especially from good programs, that's invaluable. So excited to see how that kind of evolves. It'll be weird not seeing KG on sidelines, but
yeah,
I'm excited for him. And I plan to try to go to his first game. His first game as a head coach is at George Mason. So that'll be pretty cool.
Yeah, the staff for Mike Young has been like largely the same. Like I know Frazier left and there were some other pieces that come in and out, but it's been a lot of the same guys because Byers was the new guy a couple of years ago.
Yeah, and now he's the old guy.
Yeah, like it's funny, but yeah, with how much continuity there is, I guess sometimes it is nice to get a new face in there. And you never want to lose someone like KG, but that is
we haven't talked about because you're right. No, I didn't even think about this. And I guess we should probably address it, but Christian Webster's gone too. So
yeah,
two of the main guys, you're right. Byers was, the new guy in town. And now all of a sudden he's the longest tenured assistant on the staff. Now Frazier's been here before and has a rapport with Coach Young.
Right.
But yeah, you're right. I didn't even think about that. Yeah. Webby left and now KG's off to greener pastures as well. So very interesting.
Let's get into the roster, fellas. I'm going to start with just the Hokies that left in the portal, just so you know kind of where we stood before we started grabbing some guys. But Rodney Brown left. Jaden Young, he actually landed on his feet down at UNC. That was not surprising.
Jesus. Yeah.
Was not expecting that one. Big Pat Wessler moved over to UNC Wilmington, I think. Brandon Recksteiner over at Colorado State, he transferred out. Ryan Jones transferred over to Liberty. And then Connor Servin, Mercer, I think is where he ended up. The guys who graduated were Malijal Poteet and Ben Burnham. Malijal had a nice career with the Hokies, some highs, some lows, but he was really a presence for us last year and had some great finishes to a couple of our wins last season. So he will be missed. Who came back? We got senior Toby Lawal back. We got redshirt junior Jaden Shute back. Tyler Johnson, true sophomore, is back. And true sophomore Ben Hammond, who we've already talked about, is also back. So we got a couple of guards and a couple of wings. I'll kind of lump Toby into a wing category there because he is hard to describe. As for the new guys, numero uno, the one that we need to talk about first is Nicholas Abdallas, or the way Mike pronounced it is not how I've been saying it. So I probably need to learn how Mike says it. But Neo Abdallas, 6'8", 198 pounds, a 19-year-old from Greece. This came together through a connection with Chester Frazier, correct, Ed?
Yeah. Chester Frazier's, I guess, longtime friend, Rudy Gay. Rudy Gay's agent is the same agent for Neo. So who I believe is also the same agent for Giannis Antetokounmpo. So very interesting kind of connection. But yeah, man, that was I plan to have Chris Arvin on from 24/7, and we'll talk about it probably more in depth because he was following it and was on it pretty early. But for a Virginia Tech basketball diehard like myself, that was a stressful 2 months.
You're checking Twitter every morning.
Oh
you're
my,
Googling Neo, trying to figure out if he's going to the draft or not, because that's what we were waiting on.
We're getting texts from Ed. Here's where he is in the latest like draft express poll. Here's
it was so unhealthy. It was so unhealthy.
Every time a guy decided to go come back to school, right? Ed was like, dude, the kid from Auburn's going back to school. Like now Neo's going to be higher in the draft. He's going to leave. And we were waiting and waiting because we heard like if he doesn't go to the draft, he's probably going to pick Virginia Tech, which still seemed like a long shot. But lo and behold, all these guys decide to go back to school. Neo still decides to come to Virginia Tech and forego the draft because he probably would have been early to mid second, I think, where it would have gone at the end of the day. Because so many guys did come back. He probably would have gone sooner than they were originally thinking. Now he has a chance to go in the first round as long as he can play the way that we think he can. And Mike, like, what do you see on film from the stats, from everything you've read about him that excites you? Like, and it doesn't have to be a super long description. Just like, what are you seeing from Neo that you think could be great at Virginia Tech?
6'8", 6'9", playmaker with the ball in his hands. I mean, it's pretty straightforward to me. Like, Virginia Tech hasn't had that type of guy who can impact the game on both ends, right? And I think there's going to be a little bit of an adjustment period, right? Going from the pro game in Europe to college basketball. Neo already kind of mentioned it, in some limited media availability he's had, where he's like, all right, the tempo and the pace of this game is a lot different than overseas. Like they really get up and down at the college level. So I'm interested to see how he adjusts to that. But yeah, he's a playmaker. It's like, it's really that simple. To have a guy his size be able to impact the game like he can on both ends, I think is really exciting. Virginia Tech hasn't really had a guy like that in a very long time. If ever. I mean, I'm like racking my brain even to
this
like
particular skill set, because we've had some high end recruits like Alanders Nolly, like Nikhil, but the athleticism, the quickness, the craftiness with the ball, Ed, he's so versatile. He's got great body control, and he's got skills. Like he's got moves. He's got the bag, right?
Yeah, he can do everything. My prediction, I mean, I'm just kind of off the cuff. I think he'll be a top 10 pick. I think the skill set is pretty undeniable. I think if he can, the one question, I think if there is one, when you go and look into like NBA draft scouting type, YouTube channels and things who did videos on him during the process and have since he decided he was going to go back to college. The one question I think people have is the shooting. It's kind of like Ben Hammond though. It's not like a question, oh, can he shoot? It's like we need to see a bigger sample size of it. Over in the Greek league last year, he didn't shoot a lot of threes. He shot a fine percentage. It wasn't something he did a lot of. So it'll be interesting to see if that is on display early and often, because in the U20s for Greece, he shot the cover off the ball. And then in the NBA draft combine scrimmages, which I was watching because I was a sicko, he shot really well there too. So I think it's not a question of Kenny. It's just, can we see it on a bigger sample size? But outside of that, there really aren't any question marks. Like Mike said, from a physicality standpoint, it checks every box. Athletically checks every box. And then the vision is out of control. And the playmaking, passing ability is out of control.
It's amazing to have someone that can pass the way he can and distribute, but he can also make cuts, and he can also chase down someone and block him from behind. Like he has that kind of athleticism. Like him and Toby on the same floor together. Now, Neo's not gonna be a crazy good individual defender, but he'll be a good team defender and he will block shots.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to be really exciting to see. That staying in front of people might not be his thing, but he'll be able to be an effective defender because he's big. He's a big kid.
Which is why you can have Hammond on the floor with him. Because you start Neo at the point guard. Well, do you really want him guarding a 6 foot little fast guy? Probably not. I mean, he's 6'9". That's a tough guard. So it'll be interesting to see from a matchup standpoint on the defensive end. And then he's gonna be a matchup nightmare on the offensive end. I mean, how many teams are gonna have 6'9" guys who can step out and guard him on the perimeter? None.
And he can attack those closeouts too.
Yeah, and then you put someone smaller on him. And JD Byers alluded to this on a question I asked him when Billy and I talked to him, and I literally had like a shit-eating grin on my face as he answered the question. But he was like, well, we can post him up. And I'm like, oh, my God, I didn't even think about that. Can you imagine the playmaking out of the post from a guy like that? We've seen it with Aluma and Basili before, and Mutz. Mutz is great out of the post in the Mike Young system. Justin Mutz isn't the passer Neo is, so it really is going to be fun to see what they're able to do schematically with a guy with his skill set.
Yeah, it's there is so much on the table. It's going to be curious to how they want to actually run the offense and go either through him or through him at times and Hammond at other times, and it probably will be dependent on the opponent. Let's move to Amani Hansberry, a guy that came over from West Virginia with Chester Frazier. He is 6'9", 240 pounds. That is a large man. Played 31 games for a good team, started 24 of those games, about 10 points, 6.5 rebounds. And Mike was saying that he wants to start him next to Toby. So like that, you get a little bit, you get skinny Batman and you get swole Batman, as they call the Eagles receivers. What do you think about Hansberry, Ed?
He can pass, he can shoot, and he's big and physical. He's kind of can do all of it. The outside shooting is something I think we'll see more of than he has shown so far in college. But yeah, I mean, everything you said, spot on. He was a Chester Frazier guy. He was with Chester at Illinois, followed him to West Virginia, followed him to Blacksburg. But yeah, he can really do everything. And, his basketball IQ is something that Coach Young and the players at Media Day talked about with Hansberry, was how smart he is. So, I made references to Basili, Mutz, and Aluma a second ago, but I think we'll see a lot of that similar stuff with Hansberry, the ability to play through a big at times, whether that be in the high post, a little high-low action with Toby, or whatever that ends up looking like. But the IQ, the passing ability, the ability to occasionally step outside and make a shot, but then he's also a big physical dude who rebounds the ball well. So really just a complete package, really good college big.
And Mike, you'll appreciate this name. He is as if like Kadarian Reigns could step outside and shoot.
My God. Yep.
Because he's like the same size. Like Reigns was a really big, strong kid, but never quite had the skills. The thing about Hansberry is that he's a lot more versatile. Like he can actually shoot a little bit and do a few different things, like Ed said, with the passing, and he's got a good pedigree.
I loved Reigns, man. He was on a lot of really bad tech. He was so many bad tech teams when I was in school.
He was always hurt. Like that was the problem too. He was always banged up.
Yeah. I loved him. Him and Barksdale. My God.
Barksdale was good.
Yeah. Hansberry reminds me a little bit of Draymond Green offensively. Maybe not defensively. He's not a defender. Obviously, Draymond was in college, or, obviously what he turned into in the NBA. But his offensive game reminds me of that a little bit. The 3-point shooting, I'm interested in seeing more of, right? Does he turn into a kind of this 3-point shooting big? He's going to step out and play out of the high post a lot, it seems like. Mike Young's been talking about that a ton. his pass and has been praising his passing ability, which I think is something that Draymond excelled at Michigan State. Was a very underrated part of his game there. So that's something I'm interested in seeing. Him playing alongside Toby is going to be very interesting to watch on the defensive end, especially because I think the questions I have about this team without getting like too far into it is like defensively in the post, how are we going to look? Just because we're really young down there, right? Aside from Hansberry being a junior, we're young, whether it's Dorn or Gerdak, whoever we throw down there. I do want to see what that looks like defensively, but I think offensively there's a lot of upside, obviously, with Hansberry playing out of the high post, especially. So I think that's where he's going to excel.
And he said at ACC Tipoff that his goal is 40% from three.
Yeah.
So it's a high aspiration goal because I think he didn't take a ton last year, but he was at 29%. So he's got improvement to do, but Mike Young's usually good with that kind of thing. Those are the two headliners of the new guys. Let's get to Isaiah Pasha, 6'4" guard from Delaware, CAA Freshman of the Year last year. Ed, what do you got to say about Pasha?
Man, when Pasha committed, I was like, wow, what a great get. Off season is already a win. Like, I was so excited because that was such a good get. I mean, he was a top 100, maybe 115 portal guy. So, really good player. Awesome as a freshman at Delaware. Had a great CAA tournament to end the year. And then, you see the offensive skill set with the ability to get downhill and get to the rim. Unlike that we've had in a while. I don't really know who a good, like Mike, your Virginia Tech history is better than mine, but I don't know who a good comp would be. But he's going to make his money going downhill and finishing around the rim. He shot like 33% from three last year, but like I said, he's going to the rack when he has the ball, and you've seen it in highlights from the scrimmages and from other things they've done that they've put out on the socials. Super exciting, man. And when you think about like matchup versatility, roster construction kind of stuff, like we could, in theory, you take Ben Hammond off the floor and put Pasha on the floor with the other perceived starters. There's no one on the floor smaller than 6'4" all of a sudden. So like, it's kind of crazy what, he's a big guard who can get downhill and get to the rim. It's not something we've had a lot of. So I'm interested to see if there's some, baby steps required to get him introduced into the flow of things. But man, what an exciting player.
Jaden Hudson, was that his first name, Mike? The kid that transferred.
Jalen Hudson. Yeah, Jalen Hudson. Yeah, yes, Jalen Hudson.
That guy was really good at that type of thing. And even Med Hill at times could get downhill and get to the hoop. Pasha's got a little bit more skill, I think, than Med Hill in some other areas of his game.
Yeah, I like this addition a lot. I think so. Virginia Tech's, I think, going to be so strong on the wing, right? Their guards and wings are going to be so big. Like Ed just mentioned, a lot of guys 6'5", 6'6", 6'7", they can run out there that I'm not sure Young is as concerned about the post, right? Defensively, especially because they're just going to, our perimeter defense, I think, has a chance to be really, really good just because of the size and the space that these guys are going to be occupying, depending on what lineup you throw out there. And yeah, Pasha's another guy who I think can impact things on the defensive end of the floor as well. But offensively, I really like his game. Anytime you can pick up a guy who had the year that he had at Delaware last year and has shown ability to get downhill that effectively as a freshman, you hope obviously it translates to a higher level of competition in the ACC. But so there might be a little bit of an adjustment period. But I think adding in another guy who's able to get downhill, create his own shot clock's running low. Because if there's the one concern on this team Mike Young has is like, are we going to be able to shoot, from the perimeter as consistently as we need to? But having enough guys that can get downhill and play make in a way that we haven't seen in a while, I think is really important. So adding Pasha in, I think is a really, really good get.
Yeah, it opens up the perimeter when you guys have guys you can trust to drive and not lose the ball and take it up and then dish it. So two more guys that are coming in from the portal. We got Jalen Bedford, 6'4" guard from UNLV. I think this is probably one of the more underrated ones. I'll go to Mike first on this one since I've given Ed first crack at the other ones. What do you think about Bedford?
Yeah, he's certainly flying under the radar. Folks who've been watching a lot of college basketball the last couple of years saw him play at Oral Roberts, played a bunch there, and obviously played some really good basketball at UNLV last year. He's a guy I think could have an impact as an outside shooter, right? Like we're looking for outside shooting. I think Jalen Bedford's the guy who could step up and provide that in a way that I think a lot of fans, if you're a casual Virginia Tech basketball fan, you're kind of looking for the guy who's going to make a bunch of threes. I think this is the guy who could probably have an opportunity to fill it up, right? He's a guy I look at to come in. And I think if Virginia Tech's going to reach their ceiling offensively, it's going to be because Bedford made a bunch of threes. That's my thoughts on him. I think he has a chance to be a really good shooter. We'll see how he slots in. You know, is he a starter? Is he a first guy off the bench? I think based on what Mike Young has been saying so far, I think he's going to be probably one of the first guys off the bench, which is fine. I think he's going to play a lot of minutes, but I think he has an opportunity to be impactful on the offensive end as kind of the high end ceiling from a perimeter shooting perspective.
Yeah, and it's another veteran guard, right, Ed? And you can always use, he's a graduate student, and him, in addition to Pasha and Hansberry, they're all averaged 10 points a game at their last stop. Like, so if you get a chance to bring a guy who can score 10 points a game in D1 and bring him off of your bench, like that's really nice.
Yeah, I think he will. I think he's a really good veteran 3-and-D guy. I think he'll be our best perimeter defender in terms of matching up with guards. I think Mike's spot on about the 3-point shooting. He's been a good 3-point shooter in his career. He's going to have a lot of practice shots. I mean, he's going to be alone a lot on the wings and in the corners and have plenty of opportunities to knock him down. Whereas, like, you know, a guy like Jaden Shoot, nobody's sagging off of Jaden Shoot, right? Like he's on the scout circle, do not leave, you know, don't help off this guy. Bedford is going to get open looks and he's just going to have to knock him down. And I think if he can do that, if Tyler Johnson can do that, if Ben Hammond can do that, the sky's the limit for this offense. But overall, I think his impact will be as a veteran guard who plays really good defense, and it'll get him on the floor early and often.
One last, I guess this isn't a transfer. This is Antonio Dorn coming over from Germany. He's transferring from outside the country. He's a freshman who's 22 years old.
Imported.
230 pounds from this guy, 7-footer. 9.1 points per game and 4.5 rebounds in 18 minutes in the German second division. We talked about this over the summer, Ed. Where does that line up with regard to his level in the U.S.?
Yeah, I texted KG back when it happened. I guess I can say that now that he's gone. And I said, where does the, like, how do you even evaluate this? And he said that's the challenge with the Europeans, but you know, by all indications, it's somewhere in like that A10 level basketball. Okay. So that's how they were treating it. I'm excited about Dorn, man. Like, you know, he doesn't have a lot of like highlights on his social media or anything like that. One that he does have, I think it's probably still up there, is like a sick behind the back pass on like a pick and roll play where he's throwing the pass. It's nasty. But I think his impact will be just finishing around the rim, man. He's going to have a lot of dunks and a lot of layups, and he's just got to can them, catch the ball, turn and dunk it. And I think if he can do that, he'll have a good year and he'll get on the floor a lot. I do think being older and playing professional ball against grown men will help him quickly get assimilated to the college game, particularly defensively. I think a lot. I think very highly of Christian Gerdick, but going from high school to college is a lot different than going from, you know, pro ball to college. Think about it. You're 18 going to play college ball or 22. So I think Dorn will get up to speed quicker. But he's a true 7-footer. All the guys at Media Day were raving about the screens he sets and how hard they are. So I'm excited to see that. Maybe we'll see some defenders flying off of him. But I think it was a great get to fill a much needed role as a, you know, depth big.
Mike, what did we talk about in the chat? We wanted someone who was Pat Wessler plus.
Yeah.
That's all we want. That's all we wanted. Like, give us what Pat Wessler gave us last year, but just
don't look like a baby deer.
Yeah.
Right. And I think being an older guy who's played against grown men overseas will certainly help. I think Ed's spot on. We don't need to go in circles about that. I think Dorn has a chance to have an impact defensively, obviously, as well.
And I think the front court will demand him to take minutes. I mean, it's not like I don't like who we have in front of him, but if he is decent.
There's no one
He's
in front
gonna-
of him.
Yeah, he's gonna.
No.
Well, yeah. There's no like true center because like
Yeah.
Hansberry's gonna be our 5, and he's 6'9", which is big and he's heavy, but it's not a. Sometimes in these ACC games, you're going up against a really big dude.
He's going to play a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. And we'll get into it more on the season preview next week, but like the lineup combinations are going to be so huge. Like, what is the objective of the next like 4 to 6 minutes of this basketball game, right? Like, what are we trying to get out of this until the next media timeout? Are we trying to get like 3 or 4 stops in a row? Are we trying to hit a bunch of threes? Like, are we trying to pressure the perimeter? Like, what's our goal? I think is going to be kind of the game within the game, right? That I think Virginia Tech fans this year, I think, should be paying more attention to because of the versatility of this roster.
We have a few freshmen to get to before we close out. But Mike, have you been paying attention to the Celtics Sixers score?
No, I saw Celtics were down by 6 going into half.
It's not like it's the first game of the season. That's not really what's eye popping about it. VJ Edgecombe broke LeBron James's record for most points by a rookie in their first game. He's got 30 points. VJ Edgecombe.
Let's go.
Yeah. He belongs. I was watching the first quarter before we signed on to this, and he hit a couple threes. He was going to the hoop. Like, hopefully one of our freshmen will look like him because he's a very young man. So let's talk about him. Solomon Davis. I'm going to talk about him first because I think he was the last addition. 6'11" center from DeMatha. This one kind of came out of nowhere when we got this commitment, and I would expect that he will need a little bit of seasoning time, but that is a really big player from a very good high school. Like I was pumped to see that guy come in.
Yeah, it was kind of like they took a flyer on him, like a late bloomer, super athlete. Like you said, playing in a really good high school league. Yeah, I didn't even realize until I was doing the prep for this podcast that he ended up getting a rating because when he committed, he didn't even have a rating, like with 24/7. So he was actually rated as an 85, which is a 3-star, the 57th ranked center in his class and the 9th player in Maryland. You go look on his Instagram and check out his highlights and stuff. Super athletic, plays way above the rim. Obviously at 6'11", but then he can also fly a little bit. So yeah, I think he's one who just takes some time, takes some seasoning to get his body in a better position to play college basketball. But I see the vision there. I totally get why they would take a flyer on someone like this.
All right, let's get to Christian Gerdak because we've been talking about this kid for a while. 6'10", center from Gonzaga in DC, another good school. 260 pounds. So he's 6'10", 260. Most of the nights that he's on the court, like he's going to be the biggest player on the court. We don't have very many 260-pound kids that come through, and he's a true freshman. So that's exciting. What do you see in his game, Mike, that you like about Gerdak?
He's huge. He's huge.
Physicality is important.
He's huge, and he played at Gonzaga college high school in DC, which is a very good basketball program here in the DMV. Anytime you can pull players from there, it's good. It's a good thing out of the WCAC. So yeah, I think he flew under the radar a little bit from a recruiting standpoint. I think adding him, Virginia Tech's very fortunate to have him. I think
he blew up a little bit after his commitment, right?
Late bloomer. I think Virginia Tech's very fortunate to have him because I think he has a chance to be very, very good.
I was telling Ed this. My boss works in DC, and he texted me. He's like, I ended up at this Gonzaga basketball game, and there's this kid just smoking everybody. And they're like, oh, where's that kid going to college? And they're like, oh, he's going to Virginia Tech. He's like, why is that kid going to Virginia Tech? And he called me. He's like, do you know about this kid from Gonzaga? I was like, yeah, I know who he is. He's a 4-star, and we're very excited about him because not only is he a big who can dunk, Ed, like he's got some shooting ability. He can do a little bit of everything.
He's got hands, like pass, catch. He can do all the things that a Mike Young big needs to be able to do. I think that's why it was such a good fit. Back when he committed, I heard a story of someone who was in the kind of recruiting world, and they said that at a tournament or whatever it was, someone went out of their way to tell the Virginia Tech staff, wow, like that's such a good get for what you guys do. And that someone was John Calipari. Cal was like, it doesn't work for what I want to do, but for what you want to do, man, that's a good fit. So yeah, highly complimentary, really good basketball player. Definitely like a Virginia Tech kind of guy. Like he went to Gonzaga, but I'm pretty sure he's from like rural West Virginia. So
Okay.
loves what Blacksburg's about. But yeah, it does all the things a Mike Young big needs to be able to do in terms of catching, dribbling, put the ball on the floor, passing the ball, receiving the ball, all the things Coach Young talks about all the time. Gerdick's good at.
Loves what Virginia Tech's about. He's a drinking bourbon on Center Street type of guy.
Yeah.
Probably,
yeah.
Not till he's 21.
Yeah. Dorn can do that. He's a freshman, but
yeah, I was
that's
gonna
right.
Say, Dorn could do that. Pete might see him out this weekend.
Yeah, that's sure enough. I cannot wait to get down to Blacksburg tomorrow. All right, Sincere Jones, another prized recruit, 6'7", wing from Portsmouth. I believe, was he a 4-star? Ed, did he finish as a 4? Or was he popped up into a 4?
He was the prototypical Mike Young and co recruit, where they got him as he's like a run of the mill 3-star, and then he commits, and everyone's like, "Oh, look at that guy! He's really good. He's a 4-star now." Yeah, he finished as a 4-star, 90 overall rating, 149th player in the country. Yeah, the typical Mike Young scout. Got on a guy early, love what he's about. Kid blows up, ends up with a higher rating. Like you said, 6'7", 230. He's like a bigger Tyler Johnson in that way, kind of similar games. But I think it'll take Jones a little bit of time to get acclimated to the speed of college game. I think he needs to see more reps. But physically, he's already there. I mean, he could play college basketball from a physical standpoint tomorrow. I just don't know that he's seen enough reps to make the full impact. But skill set is exciting. The size is exciting. The athleticism is exciting. Really good get.
It would be nice to see him get a couple of minutes against Charleston Southern.
I think you'll see some. I think he'll get on the floor.
Okay, cool. And then last but not least, Snook Peterkin, the guy from the football team, is also on the basketball roster. 6'3" from Mount Tabor in Winston-Salem. Scored 51 points in a game in high school. Do you expect Snook to be on this team long term, or is this just a freshman year thing? This is interesting, Mike.
We've seen this before where somebody will commit to Virginia Tech and say, I'm playing football and basketball. But then the issue is that unlike at the high school level, your football season at the college level, if you have a good program, ends sometime in January, whereas basketball, you're starting conference play, middle of conference play. I would be surprised if he plays. I think he's got to stick with one, right? I think realistically,
it takes a lot of time to play one sport.
It takes a lot of time to play one, and then to play two, the time commitment. Plus, you're coming off of a football season, then you got to jump into basketball. You're in the middle of conference play. It's kind of unrealistic to think that you're going to step in and then be a contributor in some way, shape, or form. I think you'd have to be pretty special to do that. So, I would be surprised to see. I'm sure he'll join the team like planned, but I don't.
He must just be a ridiculous athlete. I'm hoping to see him maybe a little bit during the Cal game to see what he can do. He's gotten out there on the football field.
I was gonna say, is he even healthy?
I don't know. I don't know at this point.
The last one we've seen play both, but wasn't even really simultaneously, was Devin Wilson.
Yeah.
That was
Isaiah Ford wanted to and was a really good basketball player, but like you said, Mike, they come in like that and then it doesn't shake out like that.
Right.
He's not on the injury report for the Cal game, so you might get your wish there, Pete.
Did that? Yeah, because that must have just came out today.
Yeah, I was like, is he even healthy? Yeah, that'll be interesting. I have no idea how that works or how that'll be handled. That'll be very interesting to see.
But I haven't heard Coach Young mention him.
No, I think he's in the middle of football.
He hasn't seen him.
Yeah, I hadn't seen him. Yeah.
My guess is he's a football player. That's my guess.
Yeah. Okay, so
there is one more that you haven't mentioned, though.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Even later than Solomon Davis, get a recruitment from a guard out of Charlotte, 6'5" Brett Freeman. I don't know if you remember seeing that one.
I remember that, yeah.
That one came out of nowhere also, but seemed like another similar to Solomon Davis, where it was like a late bloomer. Had a really good senior year, had a bunch of lower D1 offers, and Virginia Tech taking a flyer on a guard. But 6'5", averaged 25 a game his senior year down in Charlotte. put up 49 against the Rock School, which the Rock School is where Ryan Jones went, who transferred out. He had 2 40-point performances his senior year. So another late bloomer. Take a flyer on a guy, get him in your system, and see what you can do with him developmentally. But yeah, they got a guard and a center that fit that mold, and it's kind of exciting. I like the new approach.
Yeah, I'll take it, man. So I'd say, like, in terms of the guys who are going to contribute, we have 4 true guards and Neo. Then we have like 4 true bigs and Neo. And then we have 2 wings or maybe 3 wings and Neo. Because I'm not really sure which position he is, but like it will give us some optionality. But we're gonna save that kind of conversation for the season preview when we get into the schedule and do some predictions and all that kind of stuff. A couple notes on the women before we say goodbye. Kayla King got a job down in Clemson under Coach Poppy, who used to be part of Virginia Tech staff, correct?
Yeah, he was top assistant for Kenny and then left. Where did he go first? I don't know. Went somewhere.
It was a lower tier school, right?
Went somewhere, crushed it, and then got the Clemson job. It'll be interesting to see how they are in year one. It was whoever we beat in the NCAA tournament the year we went to the final. Chattanooga.
Yeah,
so Poppy left Kenny's staff, had a job at Chattanooga, did really well there. Now he's at Clemson, and yeah, cool, good for Kayla. Should be a GA this year in the ACC. So I don't know if Clemson comes to Blacksburg. That'll be interesting to look up. But if they do, she'll get a little bit of a homecoming. I'm sure it'll be a very warm welcome for her.
And another note is that Carly Wenzel did a interview with our very own Billy Ray Mitchell. That is going to be coming out probably after this show. That'll next week. I think you'll get that interview, but Carly's always a gem. So that's a really good one. And I'm really excited about the women's team. I know this was a men's focused episode, but the women's team has a lot of potential this year. They can do some damage. I mean, Coach she's been a great fit at Virginia Tech. And do you have any like words on them, Ed, before we
No, I mean, I expect Carly and Karis to kind of carry the flag. And the two of them were both, took huge steps last year and coming out from, I guess, the shadows of Liz and Georgia and Kayla. They were both awesome last year, and I expect them to continue to be awesome this year. And it'll be interesting to see how the supporting cast is. But yeah, I think they have every opportunity to take a step forward.
They did some great stuff in the portal too. They got that girl from Purdue. There were some other nice pieces they pulled in, but that's going to do it. We're just over 50 minutes. So this was fun, guys. I said it was a tasting menu. I mean, we got into it. We got into the weeds, and it was great. So look for more from us next week when we're previewing the season. And then the game is what, on the Monday, the 3rd or 4th, whatever that date is.
Monday.
Yeah. So I am pumped, dude. All right, guys, make sure you subscribe. Sons of Saturday on YouTube, Sons of Saturday podcast feed on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And until next time, go Hokies.